Welcome back to the Grammar Explainer. Today, we're tackling a question that trips up learners all the time. Why is it perfectly fine to say 2 apples, but totally wrong to say 2 milks? It sounds simple, right? But English definitely has its quirks. In our last explainer, we learned how to make things plural just by slapping an S on the end. Today, though, we're decoding the world of countable and uncountable nouns. Here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll cover countable versus uncountable, how to actually count the uncountable, choosing the right quantifiers, fixing common mistakes, and finally, testing your knowledge. All right, let's jump right into countable versus uncountable. What exactly is the difference? Let's start with countable nouns. Think of distinct, separate items, things like books, chairs, or students. The golden rule here is pretty straightforward. If you can put a number in front of it and literally count it out one by one, it's countable. You might have 1 apple on your desk or maybe 5 apples in a basket. Because these are individual units, they get to have both a singular form, like cat, and a plural form, like cats. Now compare that to uncountable nouns. These are usually liquids or abstract concepts. Think water, air, information, or advice. With these, we can't just add an S to the end. Uncountable nouns act like a big, continuous mass. You can't really pick up one single water or one individual air, right? So they usually don't have a plural form. You wouldn't say, I need some informations, or she gave me 3 advices. Instead, they just stand alone as singular concepts. Information, advice.
When you put these concepts side by side, the contrast is super clear. On one hand, you have things like apples, books, and chairs. They're incredibly easy to picture as individual objects. We can comfortably say 1 apple, 2 apples. But on the other hand, look at water, milk, and rice. Imagine a big pile of rice. You're definitely not going to sit there and count 1 rice, 2 rices, 3 rices. It's just one collective mass. So we'd say some water or a little milk, but we never, ever add that S.
So counting the uncountable. What if you actually do need to specify an amount of water or rice in real life? Say you're at a restaurant. You can't exactly ask for 1 water, please.
This is where we use a brilliant little loophole. Containers. You basically count the measurement, while the noun itself stays completely uncountable. The substance, the water, coffee, or rice, doesn't change, but the container is what we count. We say a bottle of water or 2 bottles of water, a cup of coffee or 3 cups of coffee. We even use this trick for abstract ideas. We don't say 2 informations, we say 2 pieces of information. The container is countable, but the noun itself, still uncountable.
Next up, choosing the right quantifiers. Because honestly, you can't just throw any quantity word in front of any noun and call it a day.
The secret here is making sure your noun matches the right quantifier. For countable nouns, you're going to use words like many, a few, or several, like I have many books. But when you switch over to uncountable nouns, the rules completely change. Now you need words like much, a little, or some. So much water, or a little sugar. And hey, if you ever panic in the middle of a sentence and forget which is which, words like some, a lot of, and lots of are an absolute lifesaver because they safely work for both. You can have a lot of apples and a lot of water.
Let's move on to fixing common mistakes. English can be wonderfully weird, and even native speakers occasionally trip over these, so let's unpack a few frequent errors. First up, instead of the incorrect many water, we absolutely must use much water or a lot of water. Remember that water is an uncountable liquid. The word many is strictly reserved for things we can count individually, like coins or pebbles. Saying many water sounds incredibly jarring to a native ear, whereas much water is grammatically perfect.
Here's another one. It is so tempting to treat abstract concepts like information as countable, but native speakers naturally default to some information or a piece of information. The word an literally implies 1, but since information is an uncountable mass in English, you can't have just one of it without a container. Dropping an information and swapping it for some information will instantly level up your fluency.
Okay, picture this. You might confidently ask for 2 breads at a bakery, but applying our container hack gives us the much more accurate 2 loaves of bread. Or if you're making a sandwich, 2 pieces of bread. Even though bread feels like a physical object you can hold, it's actually treated as an uncountable mass in English grammar. So we rely on our trusty shape words, loaves, pieces, or slices, to get the point across perfectly. All right, time to test your knowledge. Let's put these rules into action with a rapid-fire quiz. Trust your newly sharpened instincts and try to answer along with me.
First one, is the noun book countable or uncountable? Take a quick guess. Yep, since you can easily hold multiple books in your hands, it's firmly countable. It's a discrete object. You can stack them, point to them, and easily say 5 books. How about rice, countable or uncountable? Think about those tiny continuous grains. We strictly treat rice as uncountable. Just like water or sand, it's a mass. You wouldn't ask for 50 rices for dinner, right? You'd ask for a bowl of rice. Next, fill in the blank. Blank books are on the table. Is it A, much, or B, many? Well, because books are countable, we confidently select option B, many books. Much is reserved for things you cannot count, like time or money. But for physical books, many is exactly what you need. Last one. There isn't blank milk in the fridge. A, many, or B, much. Milk is a liquid that you cannot count individually, so much milk is definitely the correct choice here. Unless, of course, you use our container trick and say there aren't many bottles of milk. See how that tweaks the rule? But with just the word milk, it's strictly option B. To really cement all of this, I have a quick homework challenge for you. Drop your answers in the comments so we can check them out. Try listing 5 countable and 5 uncountable nouns. Then, challenge yourself to write 5 full sentences using our key quantifiers: many, much, a few, a little, and some. Practice is absolutely the best way to turn this from passive understanding into natural, confident speech. In our next explainer, we'll be tackling personal pronouns. But before you go, can you think of a single noun that completely bends the countable rules we just learned today? Here's a hint for you. Think about the word hair. Is it uncountable when we're talking about the hair on your head as a whole, but suddenly countable if you find one single strand in your soup? Ponder that little anomaly.